Did you know that speech and language are the most important skills for your children's social and academic success? And did you ever wonder, how do babies figure out which of the sounds they're hearing every day are the important ones to learn to imitate? Like, how do babies go from just babbling sounds to speaking in sentences and having conversations? Really, how does all this happen? I'm Tara Tuck, and I help parents and preschool teachers and all of you who care for young children to learn everything you need to know about speech and language, the most important part of child development. In this video, I'm going to talk about when language really begins, the difference between speech and language, and what we really mean when we talk about language. I'm a speech and language pathologist and the author of The Joy of Language, the Guide to Language and Learning for Parents and Caregivers. I've given you that link below, so please subscribe to my channel and visit my website. So let's start with the question, what is language? Well, we know it's talking, but it's so much more than that. Generally, having good oral language skills before the first grade means good reading skills from then on. And for this to happen, your child needs you, your knowledge about how this all works, your expertise, your modeling of what language should sound like, and your own fascination with communication. So, when do babies actually begin to learn language? Now, listen to this. They begin to learn language before birth. Your baby can hear your voice and other sounds before birth. And at birth, he won't be able to see very well, but he will be able to hear everything. We can see newborns tuning into human communication. Babies' brains are really incredible, and they're ready to learn language from the first moments. And you can become an expert at teaching speech and language to your baby. Now, I put that in air quotes because you're not really teaching language. It's really too complex. But you're providing the right environment for your baby to learn. So babies are born listening to language. They tune in to your voice, your facial expressions, your eye contact. And by 6 months, your baby will even begin to recognize and tune into the language or languages of the people at home. If a person is speaking directly to the baby, making facial expressions and exaggerating intonations and gestures, you know, the way we talk to babies, the baby is interested and wants to figure out what it all means. Now, each child learns language at his own speed, but there are developmental norms that we use to note milestones. And I'll be talking about this whole process in my next videos. But this is sort of an introduction. And since I mentioned both speech and language, you might be wondering if they're not the same thing. Well, actually they're not. Although speech is an important part of language, and sometimes I do use both interchangeably because they're so related. But speech usually refers to the pronunciation of words, the articulation, and the easy flow of speech, like fluency versus stuttering, and the quality of someone's voice, like sounding normal and not a hoarse voice or having an unusual pitch. But then language is our brain's ability to understand and express spoken and written words and sentences. So language is speaking, listening, understanding, thinking, reading, and writing. Using language is a very complicated process, but most of us just take it for granted. We learn how to speak as toddlers, and then our communication skills just get better and better, and we learn new words throughout our life. But children learn this enormously intricate system largely without any instruction at all. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have to help it along, but you aren't really teaching your child language skills. You're providing them with a perfect environment for learning. No one actually taught you to speak. They couldn't have. As I said, it's too complex. So how did you learn? And what did you learn? What's happening in our brains as we're communicating our thoughts? Have you ever really thought about that? Well, let's look at what language really is. Now think about it. There are lots of aspects of language, but stay with me here because I'm going to use this information in future videos, and honestly, you'll really get used to using these terms pretty quickly. Then, when you're watching and listening to your child, you'll be able to recognize and be amazed at everything they're learning. It's really pretty cool. So, what is language? Well, one part of language is the sounds we make. All the words are made up of sequences of sounds. We call these sounds phonemes, like st, p means stop. E means me. Sounds or phonemes make up words. It's also phrases and sentences that have to be in a certain order in order to be understood. We call this syntax, like at the beginning or I saw the gray cat. Phrases and sentences in a particular order. This is part of what we call grammar. And then there are the words themselves. We usually call this our vocabulary. All words have meaning, and that's how we share our thoughts and ideas, like train, jump, computer, between, beautiful, fast. This vocabulary is what we call semantics. It's the main thing that gives our language meaning. And then there's another part of language that's so important, and that's how we use language. Does that sound silly? Of course we use language. But we have to make sure the listener or the reader understands what we want them to understand. So we have to be good at using language for specific purposes. For example, to convince a future employer that we're the best one for the job, or to tell someone they've done something wrong without embarrassing them in front of others. It takes some language skill. And of course, we speak differently in different situations. We call that the skill of pragmatics of language. How we use language appropriately or inappropriately. We've probably all said something we shouldn't have. We've all had those times when we've thought, well, that didn't go very well, did it? You with me? So this is a good start for you to really begin thinking about speech and language. And then in my other videos, I'll be telling you about all kinds of ways that you can make sure your child learns all of these skills for speaking, listening, reading, writing, and math. It's fun and it's fascinating. Believe me, I'm going to take you through your child's speech and language learning from birth through early elementary school. So stay with me on this journey. You're going to find it pretty incredible. And please share this information with your child's older siblings, relatives, friends, preschool teachers, babysitters, whoever makes up your village, as they say. is going to affect your child's communication skills. So it's up to you to spread the word about how to be teachers, models, cheerleaders for your child's speech and language development. So please write to me in the comments below, ask me questions, give me suggestions, and please check out my book that explains it all, and visit my website, thejoyoflanguage.com, and subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one.